Meeting of the special meeting of the Planning Commission to order at 6 p.m. So if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, well, you need to put a red thing on that. I would recommend that, you know.
I will.
Sean, any changes to the agenda?
No, Chairman.
Okay, roll call, please.
Vice Chair.
Vice Chairman Stoppenbrink,
Here.
Commissioner Helmar. Here. Commissioner Pruitt. Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Papietro.
Here?
Okay. Public comments, under Government Code Section 54954.3, members of the audience may address the commission on any item of interest to the public or on any agenda item before or during the commissioner's consideration of the item. State law prohibits the Planning Commission from taking action on non-agenda items. I don't see anybody in the audience, so there's no public comments. Okay, information consent calendar. The Planning Commission will make a recommendation after discussion tonight about approving the general plan progress report. Is that correct, Sean, or is that a separate?
No, it's just a consent item.
Okay.
Yeah.
Action.
Yep.
Okay. Vice Chair will entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
I motion to approve.
No motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carried. Okay, now we're into our public hearings, and this would be the adoption of Resolution 024P as in Paul -001. This will be recommending to the City Council a consideration and approval of Ordinance 865 that amends the Planning and Zoning Code related to permitting limited accessory structures within the rear yard setback of residential zone properties, zoning text amendment application ZTA 24-01. That's a mouthful.
I try to be very detailed in my
It's very
descriptions.
specific. So at this time, I'd like to open up the public hearings. Anybody would like to speak in favor or against? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. All right, Sean, what do we do? I have a,
So I can give you a brief
would
overview
you
on
please?
the regulations, and then if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. So the City Council directed staff to prepare a recommendation regarding a proposed zoning text amendment to permit accessory structures, basically no greater than 120 square feet, in the required rear yard, the rear yard, sorry for the little typo
this
there.
goes back to that state issue last year.
No, this is different. So that's related to ADUs, like your accessory dwelling units.
Yeah.
So these are accessory structures like patio covers.
Oh, okay,
You know, something, but all within under 120 or less. So basically things that don't really necessarily require building permits, but still are kind of under the zoning purview in terms of setbacks. So like, and so the council feels the proposed amendment aims to address specific constraints faced by property owners and enhance flexibility in land use while ensuring compatibility with existing zoning regulations and the broader community interest. A setback is defined as an area between a property line and a building or structure, which must be kept clear or open. So the code states that setbacks, when located in the rear 1/3 of the lot, detached accessory buildings shall not be located closer than 5 feet to any rear property line. In instances where the rear property line is adjacent to an alleyway, the accessory building can be no closer than 1 foot from the property line. Detached accessory buildings shall meet all other setback requirements of the main building. The council directed staff to amend the zoning code to allow detached accessory structures to be located within 1 foot of any rear property line when the rear property line is adjacent, when the property line is adjacent to any alley, street right-of-way, park, or any other open space. So in addition, if an accessory building is no larger than 120 square feet, it may be permitted within the required side setback so long as it's located in the rear 1/3 of the lot. I know it's a mouthful. You can digest it, ask the question, then I can kind of help kind of guide you in terms of what this kind of physically looks like. And then it says detached accessory buildings shall meet all other setback requirements of the main building. So what that's saying is that basically accessory structures in a rear portion of a lot, which is basically a rear yard, is technically anywhere from the back of the main building to the rear property line, right? And then you have your side yard that goes along the side of the property. And so what this would basically allow is, because you probably see it in town a lot, where people buy sheds, they put it on their side yard in the rear of their alley, they don't, or in the rear of their property, or they put it on the side yard. So what the council want to do is, at least in the rear part of the lot, the rear 1/3, is to allow pretty much an accessory structure anywhere in that area, as long as it's under 120 square feet. And then if they're adjacent to like open space, a park, a street, or say an alley, it would allow them to move it to the, like, closer to the property line, because then you don't have to, you're not necessarily concerned about having building to building connection. So that was the direction we received from the council, is to basically give a little more flexibility, because a lot of time, and I think even from what I recall in the previous code before we updated it in 2013, this rear 1/3 of the lot was kind of, it allowed on the side yards of that rear section to allow it to be in that area. So essentially, if the house is, really up close, the rear 1/3, in the rear 1/3, it would be basically the rear part of the property. They would be able to kind of put that accessory structure in those areas. Now, if someone wanted to build a patio cover that's like 1,500 square feet, then you're looking at having to meet the actual setbacks. But for people that buy like little sheds, they build the Costco patio covers that are 10 by 12s. They can put those up, and it allows them to put them in certain areas. So it gives them some flexibilities. Like pools and stuff, those are still going to require a permit. So we're still going to maintain those typical setbacks for those types of accessory structures.
So the one thought I had, and you answered the one of them, was the setback. And it seemed to me that back in the day, the one condition is that the water could not run off onto your neighbor's property. So that if you did a setback, and by answering that question by going to the alley, there's no problem with water. But if you did have it up against the alley, and no alley, and your neighbor was back there, and you were 1 foot off with a roof line that ran off on your neighbor, then I remember pre-13, that was not allowed. I mean, that was the one thing that was said.
And that's
I
something we
didn't
could
see that
incorporate
anywhere.
into here, is allow, at least if there's a roofed structure, to ensure that because sometimes the code does allow for like a house, right? If the setback is 10 feet, say on the street side for a home, it's 10 foot from the wall, not necessarily. It allows you that flexibility of overhang. So like that's what they allow to encroach into that setback. But in this case, because we're allowing it at the property line, it might be a good idea to include some language that there's no exceptions to overhang, where that overhang can't be, it has to be at least on the inside of the property line.
Well, and I think for clarity, it needs to be roof line versus structure, right? Is the roof line is the structure. So wherever the eave ends is
Where we're going to
measurement's taken
establish the
from.
setback. So what we can do is maybe I can put some language in that would basically would further detail that we don't want to have roof lines hanging over fence lines, right? So I think that the complete structure itself must be within the property.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the thoughts I had on this, and so, I'll let you use your,
Yeah, and I don't think that's a major change. I think it's just really kind of clarifying where that structure needs to be. Because if you say it's on the property line, they go, the wall can share the property line, but then I have a roof line. Now, if you have a parapet or something that stops that flow of water, and there's nothing overhanging that property line, then you're probably okay.
Yep.
But yeah, we need to look at, I think it's a good idea to clarify that at least, to make sure.
thank you.
You have more in your report you want to review?
No, that was pretty much the details on that. So really, it's just allowing a little bit more flexibility for those smaller
What was the
accessory
previous
structures.
restriction before?
It's pretty much 5 feet. So 5 feet on the side yards. And then, like as I read before, it's no closer than 5 feet from any rear property line, and then it's 1 foot if it's adjacent to an alley.
Oh, okay.
That was something I remember we specifically adjusted, because we have alleys in town. Not all places have alleys. Is that we allowed it to be a little closer to the alley, like garages and stuff.
sense.
But in this case, it allows it in that rear 1/3, pretty much anything that's 120 or less, you can kind of put in that vicinity.
Any questions, other questions from the commissioners?
Was there a particular issue that this is addressing, or somebody just thought that, you know, it doesn't make sense to have it the way it is?
It wasn't specific, but I think we've got a lot of pre-existing, well, it'll eventually be pre-existing non-conforming, because we have a lot of sheds that have been placed on property lines, sheds that have been placed on rear yards. But when you're driving down certain, areas where you have rear yards facing a street where there's no expectation of another building being built next to it, it allows people to have more flexibility with their yards, and we're not getting complaints about it, so it doesn't seem as a community norm that it's an issue. So it's more or else just giving that flexibility. Now, bigger structures, you might be looking at, still having some, if it's permitted, if it comes in for a permit, then we would definitely uphold the current zoning regulations beyond just the smaller accessory structures.
Any other questions? Okay, Vice Chair will entertain a motion to approve Resolution 024P-001.
I motion to approve?
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Helmar,
Aye.
Commissioner Papietro,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill. Vice Chairman Stoppenbrink.
Aye. Okay, that passes, and you'll move that to the city council when?
I think it goes in the next meeting, which is April, no. Yeah, I think it's in April. The first meeting in April. I don't think I have it on, I think it's gonna be either April 4th. I have to look at it.
Okay.
yeah.
no.
Actually, it's on the draft order.
That's the next step of the process,
Yep.
and, okay, then we have discussion and/or potential action items. I don't think we have any. Any department reports?
No department reports. I just have an announcement when that time comes. Which would be the next one, huh?
What's that?
No, I just said I have an announcement, but not a report. So, but whenever, I guess
Well,
it's
let's
next. I
get
didn't
to
see
the
it.
announcements then.
We're going to be pushing out a public press release tomorrow. I don't know if you guys have heard that there's been some presentations by Unwired Broadband, who is going to be undertaking a full fiber to the home project in town.
Yeah,
So construction is expecting to start.
you're gonna be tearing up a lot of streets.
No streets, just within a lot of it'll be within easements, public utility easements.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like behind sidewalk, they'll be doing a lot of boring. So there will be some disturbances in town, but they're expecting to be complete by October and signing up people for services as soon as April. And they'll be doing full underground fiber to the home, 1 gig speeds up and down, which I think will be one of the first smaller cities to actually be fully like a gig city essentially.
And that starts when?
We have a meeting with them, a tailgate meeting tomorrow with their contractor, just kind of setting expectations, making sure we're aware of what's going on because they're going to be working around utilities. But they're expecting to start. They've already submitted some USAs already. They're going to start doing some markings, and I imagine the next week or so they're going to be blowing and going.
Is that some of the stuff I already see out by the garlic plant? The USA's, there's a lot of flagging.
You know what? I don't know I don't think that's them because they started. I was gonna get a hold of my. Where did it go? I was looking at the press release that I just sent out this evening. Now I don't know where the heck that went.
And then, well, you say they're gonna be finished
So it's like
right around
thir-
October?
Larry, do you recall where they were gonna start?
They're going to start right over by the CO.
Oh yeah, near 3rd
Sixth.
and. We're meeting at 6th and 6th.
No,
and-
so that's where they're going to start.
Yeah, so they're starting kind of in the core area and then they'll be working their way out.
They're
But
gonna blanket the whole city?
they're doing the whole city.
How does this differ from the services that they already provide?
They provide wireless services. And so the challenge with wireless services is that they can't go through all the trees. They can't service the entire community on wireless. So this will be fully underground wired fiber to
Fiber
every home.
optics, yeah.
So once this is up and operational, will they then discontinue their wireless services?
I would imagine. I mean, they're going to be offering pretty competitive prices. We haven't seen exactly what the prices are, but they are going to be offering relatively competitive pricing for pretty high speeds. This will be accessible to every business and resident.
So years and years and years and years with the argument and discussion with AT&T, he said we could never get fiber optics here because they weren't gonna spend the money to run the fiber optics here. So what has this company done? Where are they bringing that fiber optics in from?
There's 3 places they're coming from. So I don't know all the ins and outs. Larry's kind of my techie guy, and he might know some of the answers. I think you mentioned something, but there's 3 different like pipes that are coming into the town. So there's multiple redundancies built in. One's I think off of a wireless connection. One's based off of like a shared AT&T connection.
Well, how far out of Klinga do they have to physically go to tap into that fiber?
Not very far, but Larry's coming down to explain.
Come on, Larry, come on down, behind door number 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's gonna be, they're called backhauls, that's your link-ups, right? There will be a wireless backhaul, that's kind of just like if everything else fails, it's just a redundancy, but they're co-opting a AT&T line that's, I believe it's out of the north side of town, or it might be the east, and then they're going to bring in another line, and that's going to be, I believe they're hooking into, as a part of the, what is it called? The federal aid money.
Oh yeah. I
So
forget what the
they've been
acronym is.
developing this network within the state to have large fiber lines near cities, and then this is a part of what you would call the last mile, and the last mile is from that line to these cities and then into homes. So that's where they're going to bring in theirs from.
Is this part of that $1 billion that came through the
It's part
state
of
from
that.
the feds? Okay.
What's actually interesting though is that, so they're gonna be preempting like all of the financial funding for these smaller entities. They're funding this themselves. They wanna get ahead of everyone else.
And
So it's-
then ask for reimbursement or something later, or what?
Maybe.
Yeah, we haven't been told about that, but based on the competitive pricing they're going to be offering, I imagine that might be the case because they're investing about $11 million into the city to provide to run all this fiber.
That's pretty inexpensive for fiber.
Yeah, there's gonna be low income options, there's gonna be,
Retiree options.
sure. And like, these are super solid speeds too, with really low latency, if that really matters to you. But they said that they'd even plan to eventually one day reach like a 10 gig, that's huge.
You have to end up changing email addresses again, huh?
Maybe.
I can't keep my AT&T email address. Okay. I can see that handwriting on the wall.
Yeah, so we're going to put out a press release tomorrow to kind of just let people know because I
Thank you,
wanted them
Larry.
to be able to people to at least know there's going to be some disturbances, and we'll continue to communicate with the community because there's going to be heavy equipment, there's going to be noise generated throughout town. But I think the value of this is going to be huge for the city
Okay,
long
so
term.
over in Post Cheney, where would that run? Underneath the sidewalk in front of our houses, or?
It'd be behind the sidewalk. So a lot of the utilities are behind the sidewalk. So they'll be so there's utility easements. So not everyone's property lines. That's where a lot of the education's going to come. Is everyone thinks that sometimes their property lines the back of the sidewalk, but if you notice, there's AT&T boxes, there's PG&E boxes in your grass.
Yeah,
That's because there's a public utility easement that runs through there.
so they could end up
They'll be-
digging into your lawn.
Depending on where the bore pits are, they might be going under or they might be going in it, but they are responsible for making sure everything goes back to what it was before. So yeah, there's going to be some disturbances, just like when we do road projects and we tear up people's sprinklers and we have to do some things. The contractors have to put that stuff back, and so
So, it'd be interesting to know if they're gonna connect, because obviously not every house is gonna take the service, but just like, gas, water, cable TV, it runs to the side of your house, right?
they're going to run all the main lines, and then when you set up services, they'll run the laterals to your house. Yeah. Yeah, typically the new house, they run the laterals because every house has to have a meter, gas, everything. But in this case, when you sign up for services, my understanding is they'll do the service lines through your property to your house. They're going to be in alleys, they'll be in, everything, but everything's pretty much underground.
Yeah, cool.
is long overdue.
Yeah, it's great to see someone wanting to invest, because we've had conversations with AT&T over the years. They wanted us to put up millions in order to help support the effort, and I think it's good timing with the investment money that they're moving forward, and this is their first city that they're going to be full gig,
What's the name again?
unwired broadband.
Unwired
So
broadband.
they've been around in the valley for a long
I've seen
time,
the name.
providing wireless services for a long time. What?
It's a little bit ironic.
Yeah.
Unwired, but they're running wired. Cool.
That's great. Any other announcements?
I don't have any more. I wish I had the date for exactly when Tractor Supply is open, but I think it's supposed to be soon. So they're getting close to opening.
It's
You have a
actually
date?
this Saturday.
Is it this Saturday? Is
A
confirmed?
soft opening this Saturday and grand opening
Or
the
the,
following Saturday.
Tractor Supply.
Tractor Supply, yeah.
What
Great.
about any of the other businesses, or is it just Tractor Supply?
So far, we don't have anything confirmed for others, but there's a lot of grumblings about they're still working diligently to try to get the rest of those units filled up. So, but yeah, as soon as we get permits and stuff, we'll be able to at least kind of know what's going on. But as of right now, I think they're trying to get this open, and then I think it'll be a domino effect to really try to generate other businesses to open.
We went to Shane Sagmar into fixing their roof. I've seen some crews up on top of Sagmar.
They are repairing their roof. Yes.
Thing is, leaks since day one. Yeah.
Yeah. So they are repairing the roof, so that will be repaired, and they're actually repairing the roof at the Tractor Supply too. They had to do that, hence all the cobble. I don't know if everybody noticed, but all that cobble that was all from the roof.
Really?
Oh, it came down off the roof.
Yes, and then they're going to use it for their landscaping, which is a perfect reuse of it. So
Any commissioner announcements? Anything? Okay. All right. Question from,
Sean,
yes,
have you been notified by Verizon yet on our property? At the Oaks?
they haven't been inquiring. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
'Cause I've got their, they sent me, their contract, and, all their drawings that they did on the survey and the equipment where it's gonna go. I just was wondering if you'd gotten any.
Yeah, they've reached out and we've responded to them. Yeah.
Okay, 'cause I'm not sure when I think the first of the year, or November or around there, they wanna start constructing, I think, something like that.
Great.
Yeah, that's a $1,200 deal a month for the Elks.
You gonna put a tower up over there?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
we have any dates set for our next meeting, or depending on agenda items that might be
Yeah, I
forthcoming?
don't think I have anything yet. I think maybe the second meeting in April, but I'll try to get you guys advance notice. I know that's not every week, but
Okay.
projects kind of move, and then all of a sudden they're boom there. So
I'll be gone pretty much from the end of May, Horntown Derby weekend, through the middle of July, but I can be available anytime while I'm traveling.
okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'm trying. Whenever I get projects and I get things in the queue, I try to kind of get an idea. I try to get my hearing schedule out. So if I have that set, I'll shoot over to you guys so you guys have an idea when we should have meetings.
Okay, well, meeting adjourned 6:25.